Nobody was supposed to see it. That was the whole point. It was not a press conference. It was not an organized team activity. There were no cameras from the Browns' official social media team, no beat reporters standing on the sideline, no NFL Network cameras rolling, just two men, a quarterback and a wide receiver, inside a private training facility called T3 Performance, somewhere in the quiet of the NFL offseason with no audience and no obligation to be there. Two men who had been caught on national television arguing on a sideline less than 4 months ago. Two men whose relationship had become the most watched soap opera subplot of the Cleveland Browns' entire 2025 season. Two men who, by every public account, had tension between them that nobody inside that locker room could fully explain or fully deny. And then someone took a photo, and that photo leaked. And within minutes of hitting social media, it had been shared tens of thousands of times. NFL insiders were reacting. Cleveland radio was erupting. National analysts were trying to explain what it meant. Because this was not just two teammates working out together in the offseason. This was evidence of something that the entire league had been watching for. A signal, a shift, a message from two players to their franchise, their coaches, and their critics that whatever happened in 2025 was not the whole story. That what is being built between Shedeur Sanders and Jeudy, quietly, privately, in a training facility without cameras or obligations, might be the most important connection on the entire Cleveland Browns roster heading into 2026. And that the quarterback who was drafted 144th overall and the wide receiver who was called a Tier 3 player by a national analyst on live television have decided, without being asked, without being told, that they're going to build something together that this city has not seen in a very long time. This is the full story of how that photo happened, and everything, absolutely everything that led to it. To understand what that leaked training photo actually represents, you have to go back to the very beginning of both of their stories. Not week 32 of the 2025 season, not the sideline argument, not the 60-yard touchdown that came 1 week later. The real beginning. Because Shedeur Sanders and Judy are connected by something deeper than a quarterback-receiver relationship on a struggling team. They're connected by the shared experience of being told, publicly and repeatedly, that they were not good enough, that the hype was bigger than the reality, that the talent was there but the ceiling was low, and that whoever drafted them, whoever believed in them, was probably making a mistake. Let us start with Judy, because his story is one of the most fascinating in the NFL, a story that contains more wrong turns and public humiliations and quiet rebirths than any receiver of his generation. Judy's football journey began in Deerfield Beach, Florida, where he attended Deerfield Beach High School. During his senior year in 2016, he recorded 76 receptions for 1,054 yards and 15 touchdowns. His exceptional performance earned him recognition as a 5-star recruit, ranking as the 3rd highest-rated wide receiver in the country and 21st highest-rated recruit overall by the 24/7 Sports Composite. Wikipedia. A 5-star recruit, 3rd-ranked receiver in the entire country, the kind of prospect that coaches dream about and programs build their entire recruiting class around. Judy chose Alabama, the place where wide receivers go to become NFL first-round picks, and he delivered on every expectation that had been built around him. At Alabama, he appeared in 42 career games and recorded 159 receptions for 2,742 yards with 26 touchdowns. In his junior season, he finished with 959 yards and 9 touchdowns, earning first-team All-SEC honors. He capped off his junior year with 6 receptions for 204 yards and a touchdown in the Crimson Tide's win over Michigan in the Citrus Bowl, the White House. He won the 2018 Fred Biletnikoff Award, given to the most outstanding college football receiver in the nation. He was a consensus first-team All-American. He was a first-team All-SEC selection. He was, by every measure available to the sport, the best wide receiver in college football. U.S. Embassy and Consulates.
And then the NFL made him the 15th pick in the 2020 draft. The Denver Broncos, a franchise that had won a Super Bowl in 2015 but had spent the years since trying to find its footing at quarterback. a franchise that would give Jeudy a succession of quarterbacks who could not consistently get him the ball in positions where his route-running genius could show itself. A franchise that within 2 years of drafting him was already listening to trade offers. In his rookie season with the Broncos, Jeudy ranked 5th among first-year pass catchers with 856 receiving yards, concluding his initial campaign with the second most receptions and receiving yards in a single season by a Broncos rookie since 2008. A strong debut, signs of real potential, but then the drops became a storyline. The inconsistency became a pattern. The quarterback situation in Denver meant that Jeudy was never going to have the stable, trusting relationship with a starter that a route runner of his caliber needed to reach his ceiling. Year after year, new quarterbacks. Year after year, new systems. Year after year, the same conversation. Is Jeudy as good as he was at Alabama? Is the first-round pick living up to what was expected? In the 2023 season, before a Week 6 game against the Kansas City Chiefs, there was a heated moment between Jeudy and Steve Smith Sr., an analyst for NFL Network, after Smith attempted to apologize for criticisms he had made about Jeudy's ability on his podcast. Jeudy swore at Smith and rejected his overtures. Afterwards, Smith went on live television and called Jeudy a jag, just a guy, and a Tier 3 wide receiver that no team should trade for. The rant went viral. A jag, just a guy, on national television, from a Hall of Fame caliber former receiver who had played the same position and who was now telling the entire viewing audience that the Biletnikoff Award winner from Alabama was not worth trading for, that he was a Tier 3 player, that he was ordinary. Jeudy's response to the media's questions about the situation was simple. It don't affect me at all because at the end of the day, I'm still going to be the player I am. I am still going to be the player I am. That sentence, spoken by a young man who had just been publicly called ordinary on live television by one of the most recognizable voices in the sport, is the sentence that defines Jerry Jeudy's entire career. It is a sentence that Shedeur Sanders could have said at almost any point in the last 12 months of his life. Two different players, same spirit, same refusal to let other people's words define their own story. In March 2024, Jeudy requested a trade from Denver. The Broncos, in the middle of their own rebuild, complied. The Cleveland Browns, a team that had been interested in him for a year, sent Denver a 2024 5th-round and 6th-round pick to complete the trade. 2 Day 3 picks for a former first-round Biletnikoff Award winner in the prime of his career. The National? 2 late-round picks. That is what a man called a Tier 3 player goes for on the trade market. And what he did in his first season in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson, and then without Watson, and then with a parade of backup quarterbacks, was the most thorough and emphatic answer to his critics that any wide receiver could ever deliver. In Week 13, in a road game against his former team, the Denver Broncos, Jeudy delivered a career-best performance, 9 catches, 235 yards, and a touchdown. His performance broke a 16-year record held by Terrell Owens for the most receiving yards gained by a player facing their former team. Jeudy finished the 2024 season with career highs of 90 catches for 1,229 yards and 4 touchdowns, earning his first Pro Bowl selection. 235 yards against the team that traded him, breaking a record held by Terrell Owens, earning a Pro Bowl for the first time in his career on a team that went to 3 different quarterbacks in a single season. That is the year Jerry Jeudy had in 2024. And that is the version of Jerry Jeudy who walked into the 2025 season with a $52.5 million contract extension and the weight of being the best offensive player on a team that desperately needed offensive production. Then, 2025 arrived, and with it, the carousel started again. Joe Flacco started the season. Watson was on the roster but recovering from a second torn Achilles. Dylan Gabriel was drafted in the 3rd round, Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th, and Jeudy, the Pro Bowl receiver, the man who had just set a record against his former team, spent the first half of the season catching passes from quarterbacks who could not get him the ball consistently, who threw underneath while he ran deep, who checked it down when he had created separation that NFL cornerbacks had not been able to create since his Alabama days. Last year, his first with the Browns, Jeudy caught 90 passes for 1,229 yards. In 2025, it was a completely different story. Just 38 receptions for 597 yards and 2 touchdowns through the first 13 games of the season.
From 1,229 yards to on pace for something well below 700. From a Pro Bowl season to the worst statistical output of his career in terms of efficiency. And the frustration was building in a way that Judy could feel but could not fully articulate. Because the problem was not him. He was running the routes. He was getting open. But the ball was not arriving on time, in the right location, with the velocity and placement that his route running demanded. Then, in Week 12, Shedeur Sanders got his first start, and everything that happened between them over the following weeks, the argument, the reconciliation, the 60-yard touchdown, the training photo, is the full story of what you are watching right now. In Week 13, during the Browns' 26-8 loss to the San Francisco 49ers, CBS cameras caught Sanders and Judy getting into a heated sideline exchange. At the beginning of the 4th quarter, cameras showed Judy clapping his hands in an animated fashion and talking to Sanders while they looked over a play on a sideline tablet. Sanders stood up and responded before seemingly shaking his head in disagreement. CBC News. The whole country saw it. The screenshot went everywhere. The hot take machine ignited simultaneously on every platform. Judy was frustrated with Sanders. Sanders was dismissing Judy. The wide receiver and the quarterback were fighting. The chemistry was non-existent. This relationship was already broken before it had a real chance to form. But here is what the camera did not show. Here is what the soundbite could not capture. Here is what neither player would fully explain in the press conference that followed, because neither of them needed to explain it to anyone who has ever played the game at a high level. Sanders had completed 16 of 25 passes for 149 yards and 1 touchdown against the 49ers. He was sacked 3 times. Judy had 3 catches on 4 targets for just 26 yards. The miscommunication on the tablet was about a specific route, a specific moment where something had gone wrong between them, and Judy wanted to correct it immediately on the sideline before it happened again. Fox News. That is not an argument between enemies. That is a conversation between 2 competitive people who both hate losing and who both understand that the play on the tablet was not executed the way it was drawn up. Judy was not attacking Sanders. He was trying to fix something. And Sanders, a young quarterback still in the first weeks of his NFL starting career, still developing trust with his receivers, still figuring out who could be counted on in which situations, responded with the defensiveness of someone who is not yet confident enough in the relationship to receive correction comfortably. When asked by reporters about the exchange, Sanders said, "The hardest thing in this game and right now is having trust in everybody. Certain movements, certain things, it's so detailed, and that's how I play very comfortably. That's how I get in my comfort zone. That's how I get in my bag. That's how I'm able to do that." Fox News.
Trust. That is the word Shedeur Sanders used. Not talent, not scheme, not chemistry as a general concept. Trust, the specific, personal, earned over time trust that allows a quarterback to throw to a spot where a receiver is going to be, not where he currently is. The trust that says, I know you are going to be exactly where I am throwing this ball. Not because I can see you, but because I know you. And right now, in November of his rookie year, 7 starts into his NFL career, Shedeur Sanders did not yet know Jeudy well enough to have that trust fully developed. Judy addressed the sideline moment publicly on social media, posting, "If you see emotion, it's because I care. If you see fire, it's because I believe. I'm far from perfect, but I'm locked in on becoming better every day. If you see emotion, it's because I care." That is the statement of a 26-year-old wide receiver who has spent his entire career being called a disappointment, a Tier 3 player, just a guy, and who finally found a home in Cleveland, finally had a breakout season, and was watching that momentum stall in year 2 because of a quarterback situation that nobody on the roster had the power to control. He cared because winning mattered. He had emotion because he wanted the ball thrown correctly and the routes to be trusted. And he chose to say all of that publicly, on his own terms, rather than let the narrative build unchecked. Then came Week 14, the Tennessee Titans, a game that no one expected to be significant, and what happened on the field was the most important moment in the entire Sanders-Jeudy relationship, a moment that answered every question the sideline argument had raised, and that sent a message to the entire NFL about what these two players could become when they were actually connected. Despite a 31-29 loss, Sanders delivered a big performance, throwing for 364 yards and accounting for 4 touchdowns. Judy was a major part of that effort, hauling in 3 catches for 76 yards, including a 60-yard strike that served as one of the afternoon's biggest highlights. A 60-yard strike, not a short underneath route, not a check down that Judy turned into yards after the catch. A deep shot, Sanders trusting Judy to win on the outside, Judy trusting Sanders to put the ball in the right place, both of them operating on the same wavelength for the first time all season. And when it worked, when Judy hauled it in and the crowd in Cleveland went electric, both of them knew something had shifted. Sanders spoke about it afterward with the clarity that has become his trademark. "Well, I'll say it's more faith-based and just committing to it. Obviously, me and Jerry had that dispute or whatever last week, but I have faith in him, he has faith in me, and everybody put everything aside and, okay, cool, let's go out there, play ball. When you go in situations with no negativity, no hate on your heart, and you're out there enjoying it, having fun, that's the result you're going to get." Faith-based. He used that word specifically, not scheme, not repetition, not technical mastery, faith, the thing that cannot be drawn up in a playbook or developed in a film session alone, the thing that only comes from going through something difficult together and choosing to come out the other side as partners rather than enemies. Even earlier in the season, back at OTAs in May 2025, Judy had subtly signaled his belief in Sanders before a snap of regular season football had been played. After the first OTA session wrapped, Judy posted photos on Instagram. Fans discovered a comment on the post that read, 12-3 gone feed families, referring to Sanders' jersey number 12 and Judy's number 3. Judy not only liked the comment, but left it up without clarification. ABC News. 12-3 gone feed families. A fan wrote it, Judy liked it, and let it stand. Before the season, before the sideline argument, before the 60-yard touchdown, before any of it, at the very beginning, Jeudy had already decided that Shedeur Sanders was the quarterback he wanted throwing him the football. And everything that happened in 2025, the chaos, the depth chart, the argument, was just the friction of building something real in conditions that were never designed for ease. And now, in March of 2026, that building is continuing, not on a practice field, not in an official team setting, in a private training facility, voluntarily, without cameras, without obligation, before the new league year has even officially opened. A photo surfaced this week from T3 Performance showing the Browns quarterback and Judy training together ahead of the 2026 season. The image is a welcome sight, considering the two had notable tension last season, including a heated sideline exchange during Sanders' first home start in Week 13 against San Francisco. Al Jazeera. T3 Performance, a private facility, a leaked photo, and the entire NFL world immediately understood what it meant,
because in the language of professional football, a quarterback and his number one receiver choosing to train together in the offseason, before a single OTA has been scheduled, before a depth chart has been set, before anyone has officially been named the starter, is the loudest possible statement of intent. Now heading into a pivotal offseason under new head coach Todd Monken, the two appear to be on the same page and working to build chemistry that didn't have time to develop during a turbulent campaign. Fox News. Chemistry that didn't have time to develop during a turbulent campaign. That is the most honest and precise description of what 2025 was for Shedeur Sanders and Jeudy. Not a failure, not a broken relationship. A relationship that was forced to form in the worst possible conditions, with a quarterback starting his NFL career weeks into a season, with an offensive line ranked dead last in the league, with a coaching staff that would be fired at the end of the year, and that somehow still produced a 60-yard touchdown and a moment of genuine connection that both players chose to build on the moment the calendar flipped. General Manager Andrew Berry made it clear at the Combine that the Browns are looking to bolster the wide receiver room through multiple avenues. "I think we can add all across the offense, to be honest," Berry said. Adding across the offense, which means Judy will have help in 2026, which means that the attention he draws from opposing safeties, attention that sometimes doubled because there was no second receiver threatening to punish a defense for cheating toward him, will be distributed differently. Which means the one-on-one matchups he wins with his route running will be even more dangerous when a defense cannot afford to double him every play. And at the center of all of that, at the quarterback position, throwing to Judy and the new pieces Andrew Berry is assembling, is the young man from Colorado who was supposed to be a first-round pick and fell to 144th overall, who sat fourth on the depth chart and became a starter, who threw for 364 yards and made the Pro Bowl in his rookie year, who is now on the first days of the 2026 NFL offseason at a private training facility throwing routes to the Pro Bowl receiver who is the best weapon on the team he is fighting to lead. Judy is Cleveland's number one receiver, but it has been a rough year for him. Part of that is because he struggled with drops throughout the year, but the Browns' carousel of quarterbacks, including two rookie quarterbacks, hasn't helped. Judy is starting to build a rapport with Sanders, and hopefully that will help bring a stop to the carousel. Military.com. Stop the carousel. That is what this training means. Not just chemistry building, not just route running repetitions in a private facility. A signal to the organization, to Todd Monken, to Andrew Berry, to Deshaun Watson, to every analyst and insider and radio host who have been debating who the Browns' quarterback will be in 2026, that Shedeur Sanders is acting like the answer. That he is not waiting to be named the starter, he is behaving as if the job is already his, putting in the work that a franchise quarterback puts in, building the relationships that a franchise quarterback builds, making himself impossible to overlook through the sheer weight of his preparation. The leaked photo is not just a photo, it is proof that the sideline argument was the beginning of a relationship, not the end of one. That 12-3 gone feed families is not fans' wishful thinking. It is a plan being built in private, one route at a time, in a facility where nobody was supposed to be watching. They were watching anyway, and what they saw will be talked about in Cleveland all the way to September.